with Seller.Tools. Excited to be with you again to cover a great topic, how to make sure, really how to launch and make sure that your ranking sticks. This is a question we get a lot when it comes to, now that we've shared really what Amazon's rewarding now for launch strategies, how do you make sure you rank and stick, keeping that page one dominant placement? So before we jump into the content, I'm going to encourage you guys to be sure to subscribe to the channel. So anytime we do content like this, quick content, you're notified. I also do this in a live format, so it gives you the opportunity to, if you join in while it's live, I will take your questions and answer those in regards to the content. So really cool way for us to engage and stay in touch. So be sure to like if you enjoy the content, and then subscribe to be notified of future videos. And so what I want to share with you guys is, if you haven't seen already, as we've rolled out last launch, what we've really reiterated is, again, what Amazon is rewarding right now with the algorithm for launch effectiveness. And by that we mean, of course, garnering that top spot based on that keyword phrase that we're ranking for. Are we earning that top spot? And then is it sticking? And so to launch, again, there's a few things that we need to keep in mind. We need to make sure that we're offering a very steep discount. A short 24-hour launch, higher sales velocity launch is proven to be effective. Once that launch takes place, it's about 4 to 5 days for that review to kind of pop, where we see, again, orders being fulfilled, making sure that there's no cancellations, refunds, those types of things, and that all of that sales volume, that sales velocity positively impacts rank. And so what we want to avoid when we launch is that dreaded rank earthquake, as we call it. And that tends to be when we're kind of all over the place. You know, if we're using a rank tracker tool, if we're using Seller.Tools, we see visibility into kind of being all over the place with our rank, and we're using paid and organic strategies, and we're listening to the latest tips, how to use Facebook ads and ManyChat, and those things are great, and they have their time and their place. But we're big proponents of getting ahead of this rank earthquake. Is just, let's get page one placement and then start to learn some of the newer strategies and implementation, because that's a really big challenge for somebody who's new, and even intermediate sellers. Is we are more apt to think, oh, okay, I've got to learn something new and I've got to spend this time, and that has opportunity cost, and it has a cost in and of itself. And there's just so much of a commitment where, if you understand what Amazon's rewarding now, using a launch service, or if you have that subject matter expertise and you can replicate it, that's awesome. Do it. So tight sales velocity window. We go for a steeper discount. We also want to have a higher relevancy percentage. I'm going to share with you guys, I just recently wrote an article in the Seller.Tools blog. So if we take a quick look at that, it's the definitive guide to relevancy. It's the 4 key factors that we kind of isolated when it comes to relevancy percentage to ensure that we have the highest relevancy. And what we go for when it comes to last launch, and what we recommend, is a minimum threshold of 90%. Anything below that, we just don't see as effective of a launch as we like to see, because of course what we want to do is we want to blow up the rank, but we want to keep it. We want to make sure that we maintain that page one domination, and relevancy percentage is a key part of the equation. One of the other big factors is making sure that you look like you belong. If all of a sudden you're on page 10 and you are jacked up to page 1, do you look like in that landscape somebody who belongs, whether it's your main image, whether it's your review count, review quantity, or even your title? Think about it in that view, not in the product detail page, but in that top level view. Once you plug in that search phrase, do you look like you belong in that landscape? It's such a crucial factor, because if you're not garnering keyword-driven conversions, you're going to drop off considerably, even if you've had a successful launch. So very important factor to consider in terms of launch readiness. And so again, just to kind of share with you guys, this has been an image that's been getting around, is that rank earthquake, as we've kind of coined it, with last launch, and similar strategies. Again, if you're not ready for deploying that type of strategy, totally understandable. I just want to give you, again, what's working now, and then some of the other key pieces for making sure that it sticks, because we've been sharing this with the community, and we want to reiterate it to folks that are looking to deploy a last launch. And so there's kind of 2 different ways that you can go about it to make sure it really has that stickiness factor post-launch. The first is increasing your PPC spend, so exact match against that keyword, and lowering your price. Makes total sense, and it just reinforces to Amazon that you are driving based on that buyer and search intent. keyword-driven optimized sales. I alluded to this in the article that you can check out on the blog. That's one strategy. And one really kind of a separate but really easy one to implement as well is leveraging coupons. And so coupons are a great way to add a visual. They're sort of the same visual as a bestseller tag, a great visual to your listing to stop somebody, to capture their attention as they're scrolling down a listing. Because again, when we're thinking about do we look like we belong, if we don't have that bestseller tag just yet, it creates that same type of visual marker where you can offer, let's say it's $1, $2 coupon, a relatively steep coupon based on the price point, capture their attention, slow them down, and maybe garner those click-throughs and garner the keyword-driven or optimized sales based on that keyword phrase. So I love this graphic because, like I said, it kind of gives you a great idea of what we aim to achieve. You know, the rank earthquake can really give you a lot of anxiety when you're all over the place and you're not performing, and you know you're doing organic strategies, you're doing paid strategies. It can just be really cumbersome. And so if you can replicate that, that's what I want to really give you as a takeaway: is pre-launch what you want to have ready, post-launch what you want to do to make sure that that launch sticks. And this is what's working right now. And really, everything else kind of gets to be noise. You know, really, once you rank, once you have that visibility, then you can get creative with the strategies you deploy. But what we really champion is index. So your product has to be visible in the first place. Relevant. Does Amazon really have it at a higher scale, since it gives us a metric as a percentage? Do we have that higher relevancy percentage? And then rank. And really the most simplistic ways to do that. Last launch, of course, I'm going to share, but consider break-even PPC, overly aggressive PPC. Find keywords that you can win. That really is a strategy that parallels launching and PPC, where again it's a disproportionate focus on where you can win. Go deep and then wide, and select your keywords based on some of those metrics. So I do see a few comments coming in. I want to leverage the fact that we are totally live. So Alexa, how much is it? So last launch for up to 250 codes, it is $297. So that's the investment for the launch itself. And then of course, do your math, do your numbers to understand the units, the FBA fees, how many you may need to give away to garner that top spot. And for those that aren't familiar, Seller.tools actually gives you the recommended giveaway quantity. So it's very straightforward. You can back it out from there of knowing, okay, if I've got to give away 50 units, my cost is X, Amazon FBA fees are Y, and you can really understand the costs that are associated with your launch. So, hi, Eno, great to hear from you. I only have 100 pieces. To whom it's a high-ticket item do I qualify? And so you may want to, again, look at our suggested giveaway total numbers so you can get a sense of that first, and then back out your total cost as well as the expenditure. What you're going to find time and time again, especially if you kind of evaluate, obviously very biased to last launch, but if you evaluate other services, I think we are a step ahead with what we do with preferred audience targeting, with emphasis on relevancy percentage, with the high sales velocity. There's a lot of unique elements to last launch, and the price makes the ROI extremely high. So definitely do your numbers, make sure it makes sense for you, and deploy those post-launch pieces. Look at coupons, look at either dropping your price, increasing your PPC, and I recommend a time frame of at least 5 to 7 days, depending on those two strategies. That just tells Amazon and effectively the customers coming through that your product belongs there, it's substantiated, the numbers reflect it, it's quantifiable, and you tend to stick that post-launch rank. So some really key and important takeaways. If you guys have any other questions, I love that you guys are jumping on, because we're just really starting to do this. Be sure again to subscribe if you want to be notified of future content and have your questions answered live. Because I really like this. I really like this model. It's a really cool way to tap in with you guys and reach a broader audience with YouTube. For those that don't know, FBA Kings is our Facebook community where you can speak with now almost 7,000 sellers, with us as well, where we really try to give free value, latest tips, strategies, and everything. So when are the new features going to be available for the .de marketplace? So we're currently working on Power and R2A. So you should see those come soon here in Q4. But we are working on deploying those in the larger EU marketplaces as well as Germany. So Should we choose high competitive keywords or go with low competition and sort of scale from there? So what I would recommend is typically I end up somewhere in the middle as a recommendation. Of course, I'd love to look at what your keyword data set looks like. Because somewhere in the middle is kind of worth going, because you get the best of both worlds, right? You're not more higher competition. Again, I'm coming from beauty supplement space. A lot of what I've worked in, there's a lot of black hat strategies being deployed. So your high competition keywords have to kind of butt up against that when you launch against those. But if you can win the medium and move your way up, it's a momentum game to start capturing and winning those higher competition keywords. And so the sort of the philosophy I like to share is go after the keywords you can win. So evaluate the competition, deem based on how many you have to give away if the numbers make sense for you. But that tends to be where I recommend folks go. And if it gets to be, if it's sort of in that mid to high, look at launching alongside more aggressive PPC, running those two things in tandem. They're a higher expenditure, but the ROI is typically there. And what I generally mean by higher competition keywords in terms of like traffic volume, that's when you're talking about 50, 60 plus in terms of exact impressions when you're looking at traffic data. So hopefully that gives you a sense. If you have some specifics, of course you don't have to share too much, but if you have some specifics, I'd glad to hash out kind of what I would recommend in that scale. But that generally in that mid range, it's worth your time, but it is a little bit higher expense, but the ROI is there. There's enough meat on the bone for you to really invest your time and energy. Cool. Awesome. Great questions. Great questions. Let me add these to the broadcast. I'm learning too, guys. So here's a few of the ones that we've got coming in. R2A, when it comes to adding those to EU, more to come there for sure. The question with respect to high or low competition for keywords to go after. Let's see here. As far as listings with variations, I've recently discovered certain keywords were indexed in some variations but not indexed in others. How can I tell which variation is or isn't indexed? Yeah, that's a great question. So it really reinforces the importance of the tool that you're leveraging. Index has gone through a major change since the update in early August that we saw. And so we rolled out Index 2.0 that really effectively addressed what at that time was a lot of confusion with Index. And so Seller.tools does help with this when it comes to index visibility automatically for tens of thousands of keywords. So I would definitely leverage a platform. ASIN plus keyword as an index check is really no longer viable. And so I think that's really the best way to give you visibility. And then from there, I've also written a blog article about how to fix your index issues. It does apply to variations, things like categories, making sure you don't have any trademark words, branded words, those types of things. What we tend to see, and the article alludes to this, is think of it kind of from the top down. It sort of gives you a sequence of saying, category relevancy, because Amazon's really stressed that. We've sort of, the hypothesis is that this has been, with the manipulation of categories, it's been reinforced to have category relevance to garner index status. So that's an important piece of the equation. So Index 2.0 will give you the visibility. Definitely check out that blog to troubleshoot some of those parts and pieces. And then also when it comes to one other thing that we kind of see that's a little quirky is if you see like the latter part of let's say your search terms being de-indexed, we'll see that a specific phrase will actually kind of flag, and then anything subsequently after that will be de-indexed. So really, once you start with the visibility, see if you can isolate that further and address it within the listing itself. Awesome. Great questions. I love this live format. It's going to work, I think, great for future content. Awesome. Thanks, Aiden, for alluding to that. That is the exact... we're trying to write more blog content for you guys as well. So that's definitely going to continue to be a place to get some great information. But if you like these videos, drop me some comments on those as well, and let me know how you're enjoying everything. How many words do you recommend for each bullet point? So again, definitely refer to style guides and limits, leverage, and of course I like to use the listing manager for this. to make sure byte and character limits, in terms of getting the customer read points and also stuff the points with keywords for Amazon's algorithm. So I prioritize keywords, of course. I'm extremely biased because I want to give Amazon what it wants. If I already have that top placement, I'm going to have the click-through to really make the difference on the product detail page. And so there is a question of do people read bullet points? Is there towards the top 2 bullet points, and then how the change is being reflected here in mobile and a greater shift to mobile. So it's a very nuanced landscape, and my hedge against that is to put a disproportionate focus on keywords. And so use as much space as you can, have those keywords right in front of you as you're building your listing. Leveraging Listing Manager and Seller.Tools is a great way to go. So use as much space as possible, always focus on keywords first, and then keep in mind desktop versus mobile, and making sure visibility there as well. So again, title's hugely important. Subject matter, search terms, bullet points, and description. I think I'm getting that right by memory. It is in the article, so you guys can check that out as well. What is considered a good relevancy rate? Is 90% good enough to target for that keyword? It is. 90% is the threshold that we set. And this is through our testing, guys. This is something where we kind of, through Seller.Tools, made relevancy percentage available. So it's new to us. It really is kind of still a very new metric, but because it's coming from Amazon, it rightfully gets put on a pedestal. It's sort of the foremost metric where we're not adding any math. We're not coming up with anything, and so it's not a Seller.Tools metric. It's an Amazon metric. So it rightfully gets prioritized above anything else. 90% is really a great sweet spot, that and above. But for targeting or for launching, it's a great threshold. So cool. Thanks, Aiden, for the nice compliment. Nice haircut. Appreciate that. It's nice and hot here in sunny Florida, so we don't mind a little shorter cut. Cool. Awesome, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this content in this video. Please drop me some comments as well. I added a few, of course, to the broadcast, as you've seen. I've got the visual here so you guys can see what we've been able to achieve with last launch. Definitely take a look at it, see if it makes sense for your business. But what I would say is, again, index, relevancy, rank. Pretty much everything else is going to be a little bit more on the noise side of things. And so it applies to beginner, intermediate, and advanced sellers. Is what's your 80-20 in Amazon? What's Amazon rewarding? And that's where I should be committing a disproportionate amount of time. So hopefully, again, you guys enjoyed this. Be sure, again, to subscribe. Share if you found this helpful. Give me a thumbs up if I did a good job with giving you guys some value. And be sure to keep an eye on for more. If you guys enjoy this content, I'll definitely be putting out some more live videos, and it's a great way to engage with you as I'm sharing what we've learned, what we've seen, what's working in Amazon FBA. So thanks again, guys. Have an awesome day, and hopefully we will see you guys here again soon.